Have you ever wondered what really goes on inside an avoidance mind after they walk away from you like it meant absolutely nothing? They seemed calm, almost cold, detached, unbothered, like losing you didn't cost them a single heartbeat. You looked at them and thought, how can they move on so easily while I'm still drowning in memories? But here's the truth. Avoidance isn't the absence of emotion, it's the fear of it. And what looks like peace on the outside is often pure chaos on the inside. You just can't see it, because an avoidant's entire identity is built around hiding what they feel. When they walk away, they don't do it because they've stopped caring. They do it because closeness, love and emotional intimacy activate something terrifying inside them, a buried fear of rejection, of being consumed, or of losing control. To them, connection feels like danger. So instead of staying and facing the discomfort, they escape it. That calm face you see, it's a mask. It's the armor they wear to survive their own anxiety. While you're replaying conversations and searching for answers, they're trying to silence the emotional storm that love has stirred up within them. Because for avoidance, vulnerability equals exposure, and exposure feels like pain. So they distance themselves, hoping that cutting the connection will quiet their inner noise. But it never really does. Their silence isn't strength, it's self-protection. And the more they suppress, the louder their emotions become beneath the surface. That's why avoidants often come back after weeks or months, not because they suddenly realized your worth, but because their emotional avoidance cycle has turned on itself. What they thought would bring peace brings restlessness. What they believed was freedom starts to feel like emptiness. So today we're not just analyzing behavior, we're uncovering the truth behind it. The hidden feelings that most avoidants would never confess, because the moment they reject you is not the end of their emotion, it's the beginning of their internal battle. And by the end of this video, you'll finally understand, their silence isn't closure, it's a symptom of a mind still trying, and failing, to escape what it feels. Let's begin. The illusion of relief. The first thing to understand is this: when an avoidant ends things, the first emotion they often feel isn't sadness, surprised. Most people assume that rejection comes with immediate regret or heartbreak, but for an avoidant it's different. Their initial response is often a rush of relief. Why relief? Think about it. For weeks, maybe months, their nervous system has been on edge. Emotional closeness, while meaningful, feels like pressure. Every message, every demand for attention, every moment of intimacy triggers their internal alarm system. And when the connection ends, that tension suddenly quiets. They tell themselves, finally, I can breathe again. But let's be honest, what does that really mean? Is it peace? Is it freedom? Or is it an illusion? It's important to note, this relief isn't a sign that they stopped caring, not at all. Their feelings didn't vanish overnight. It's simply that closeness triggered their deepest fear, the fear of being trapped, losing control, or being emotionally consumed. Your love, which was meant to be warm and nurturing, started to feel like an invisible weight pressing down on them, and the only way their system knows to cope is to pull away. So when they reject you, their relief is not joy, it's escape. A temporary pause from a tension they don't fully understand themselves. You might wonder, does that mean they're heartless? Do they not value what you had? The answer is complicated. Their nervous system isn't wired for sustained intimacy, and in that moment, safety equals distance. But here's the twist: relief never lasts. Have you noticed how avoidants sometimes vanish and then act restless later? That initial calm quickly fades. Silence, which at first felt freeing, begins to echo louder than they anticipated. Memories resurface, small pangs of guilt creep in, and suddenly the mind they thought they calmed starts racing again. The illusion of relief gives way to the realization, connection cannot be entirely escaped. Now ask yourself, have you seen this pattern in your own experience? That moment when they leave, and it looks like they don't care, yet there's a tension beneath the surface. That's the very human conflict of avoidance at work. This is why understanding avoidance isn't about blaming them or excusing their behavior. It's about seeing the truth behind the mask. That relief you witness is just the first act in a series of hidden feelings that unfold quietly after the rejection. So what happens when relief fades? What emotions take its place? How does the avoidant truly feel after that initial escape? Stay tuned, because in the next segment, we'll uncover the second hidden feeling your avoidant experiences, and you'll start seeing their behavior in a whole new light. Understanding this pattern is the key to not just insight, but also your own emotional clarity. The subtle discomfort days pass after the breakup. On the surface, the avoidant seems fine. They scroll through their feed, work on tasks, maybe even laugh at something unrelated. Outwardly, everything looks normal, calm, composed, untouched. But here's the catch: appearances are deceiving. Behind that composed mask, subtle cracks start forming. Small, almost imperceptible signs that the initial relief is starting to fade. Have you noticed this pattern in your own experience? That faint, uneasy energy, even when they act like nothing happened? That's the human mind quietly surfacing what it tried to suppress. Even though avoidants are masters of emotional suppression, the mind cannot silence attachment completely. That bond, however frail, leaves traces. Tiny triggers spark memories, a song, a meme, a phrase you once used that unexpectedly pops into their thoughts, and suddenly their calm exterior begins to feel unstable. Here's where it gets interesting: they won't reach out. They won't admit that anything feels off. They will push those thoughts away as fast as they arrive. But inside, the subtle discomfort grows, insidiously. It's like a shadow at the edge of awareness, impossible to fully ignore. Have you ever wondered why they act so distant yet seem restless at the same time? This is the answer. The discomfort isn't about missing you per se. It isn't longing, at least not in the traditional sense. What they feel is unease, a quiet acknowledgement that something in their world has changed. Your presence, your energy, your love, it lingered in their life longer than they anticipated, and now its absence is impossible to fully deny. At night, when distractions fade, and the world quiets down, that unease intensifies. Thoughts creep in that they would normally suppress during the day. Were they really the problem, or was it me? Questions they can't fully answer, but can't ignore either. They wrestle internally with vulnerability, and for someone who avoids emotional exposure, this is deeply unsettling. And here's the twist: this discomfort doesn't come from missing you as a person. It comes from what your love reflected back at them. Their own vulnerability, their fears of being open, their unresolved internal conflicts. Avoidants push people away not because they don't care, but because closeness forces them to face themselves in ways they're not ready for. Think about it. Have you noticed how sometimes they act like they don't care, yet something seems off? That subtle tension, that invisible pull, that's exactly what we're talking about here. That's the discomfort seeping through the cracks, slowly breaking the illusion of total freedom they felt at first. So the question is, how do they handle it? Do they let it fester? Do they acknowledge it? Or do they double down on avoidance, burying the feeling even deeper? In the next segment we'll dive into the third hidden feeling your avoidant experiences, a surprising emotional truth that most people never see. And once you understand it, their behavior will start making sense in a way you never expected. The memory trigger: then it happens. The moment that your avoidant thought they had fully buried all feelings suddenly cracks open. A place you both visited flashes in their mind. A smell, a song, or even a random image of your laughter, something so small yet so powerful, triggers an unexpected wave of emotion. Have you ever wondered why avoidants seem so cold, yet occasionally react in ways that hint at buried feelings? This is it. It's not just memory, it's sensory recall. Their body remembers. Their nervous system lights up as if it's replaying moments of safety, affection, and warmth. That moment when they felt fully seen and accepted, that is the trigger. And for a brief second, all the emotional armor they worked so hard to build around themselves falters. They may try to rationalize it immediately. Why am I even remembering this? It's over. But deep inside, the emotional bond they thought they left behind begins to stir. The connection wasn't just in their mind, it was encoded in their body, their habits, their subconscious. Avoidants don't process emotions the way most people do. They postpone them, compartmentalize them, and convince themselves that detachment equals freedom. But the human psyche doesn't forget that easily. And here's the subtle danger: the longer they avoid feeling, the heavier the emotional debt becomes. Every suppressed feeling, every avoided confrontation with vulnerability adds weight. That's why triggers like these hit so hard. They are not just casual reminders, they are cracks in the wall they built to protect themselves from intimacy. Each one forces a confrontation with what they ran from, not danger, not pain, but genuine human connection. You might ask, do they ever feel regret? The answer is complicated. They do, but it rarely presents itself as sorrow or longing. Instead, it's disguised as irritation, indifference, or even self-justifying thoughts. I shouldn't care, it's over, it doesn't matter. And yet the physical, emotional and mental stirrings reveal the truth they refuse to admit. That part of them still feels the absence of what was lost. Think about this: when an avoidant suddenly reacts out of proportion to a minor memory, it's not random. It's a visceral reminder of connection, closeness, and the emotional exposure they tried to escape. And for a fleeting moment they are forced to feel exactly what they avoided for so long. So what does this mean for you? These triggers show that avoidance is not absence of feeling, it's avoidance of vulnerability. And while you may have been rejected, dismissed or ignored, the emotional imprint you left remains. They might never admit it openly, but beneath the surface something stirs, something they can't fully control. In the next segment we'll uncover the fourth hidden emotional truth, the moment when avoidance collides with longing, and how even the most detached avoidant struggles to fully silence their heart. The fourth thing, the ego clash. This is the turning point. Have you ever noticed how an avoidant suddenly seems unsettled, almost restless, days or weeks after they've walked away? That's the ego clash kicking in. The discomfort they've been suppressing becomes too loud to ignore. It creeps into their awareness quietly at first, like a shadow in the corner of the mind, until it demands attention. Part of them wants to reach out. That quiet, almost desperate curiosity, to see if you've moved on, to feel that old familiarity again. Can you picture it? That tiny nagging impulse that whispers, maybe I should just check just once. But another louder voice immediately shouts, no, don't be weak, they should reach out first. That's the paradox avoidants live in, the tug-of-war between longing and pride. Have you ever wondered why they never make the first move? Why even in the quietest moments, they seem to hesitate, to hover, to linger without acting? It's pride, and fear, and ego, all wrapped into one. They crave your validation, your attention, your presence, but to ask for it would expose the very vulnerability they've been running from all along. And admitting vulnerability is the one thing avoidants fear more than losing you. So what do they do instead? They lurk, they scroll, they watch silently from a distance. They analyze every post, every story, every hint of your life without ever revealing their own feelings. Your silence, the very thing that can hurt, becomes a mirror. They interpret it as rejection, even though they are the ones who rejected you. Isn't it ironic that the avoidant so skilled at detachment ends up entangled in the consequences of their own actions? And here's where the tension escalates. In that silence, the illusion of control they worked so hard to maintain begins to crack. Suddenly, they are no longer the ones in charge of emotional distance. Instead, they're the ones questioning. They start analyzing every interaction, every pause, every word that passed between you. Did I lose them for good? Are they truly moving on? That question lingers, like a ghost in their mind, haunting them when they least expect it. You might ask, do they admit it? Rarely. Do they reach out? Sometimes, but not because of clarity, because of compulsion. And each second of hesitation, each moment spent in silence, intensifies the ego clash. They are caught between two forces, the longing for connection and the fear of appearing weak. It's a psychological battlefield that only they can feel, and it's as invisible as it is intense. So what does this mean for you, watching from the other side? It means that even after rejection, even after distance, the avoidant is not entirely unaffected. That ego, that pride, that subtle discomfort, it is evidence of lingering attachment, hidden beneath layers of avoidance and self-protection. In the next segment, we'll explore the fifth hidden feeling, the secret vulnerability that no avoidant wants to admit, even to themselves, and how it shapes the way they process rejection and loss. The hidden regret. Finally, the moment arrives, the point where reality starts sinking in for the avoidant. You've noticed the silence, the absence of their messages, the lack of contact, and what they assumed was freedom suddenly begins to feel heavier than relief. Have you ever wondered what goes on in their mind when your calm, your boundaries, your detachment become the mirror they can no longer avoid? At first, they may try to rationalize it away. They're overreacting, they'll move on. This isn't a big deal, they might tell themselves. But slowly, the truth begins to creep in. They realize your absence isn't manipulation. You didn't pull away to punish them. You didn't create distance to make them chase. No, you stepped back because you were healing, because you stopped chasing what was never fully yours. And that realization cuts deeper than any confrontation ever could. Avoidants are rarely prepared for consequences. They are used to evading, to distracting themselves from discomfort, to hiding from vulnerability. But your detachment forces reflection. It strips away the chaos and leaves them face to face with their choices. They begin to notice what they've lost, the calmness you brought, the stability they relied on, without acknowledging the emotional depth they rejected, but secretly craved. And then slowly, the regret begins to take root. It doesn't come as a grand confession, not as a dramatic return. No, it's subtle, quiet, almost invisible. But it grows, in missed moments, in memories triggered by songs or places, in random thoughts that remind them of your presence. What if I handled this differently, they wonder. Did I lose someone who actually saw me? The ego, that same pride that urged them to reject you, starts to falter. They begin to see that the rejection wasn't a demonstration of strength, it was avoidance. They weren't ready for someone who held space for them fully, someone who loved without needing to control. And the hardest part, they cannot undo it. Your boundaries, your peace, your self-respect, these cannot be taken back. Here's the subtle twist: their regret isn't about losing control over you, it's about losing the depth they were never prepared to engage with. You weren't too much, you weren't excessive, you weren't flawed. The truth is, they simply weren't ready for the honesty, the intimacy, the emotional courage that you embodied. And here's the question for you: when someone finally regrets what they let go, does it change anything for you? That's the power of detachment. Their reflection, their quiet remorse, their realization, it has no hold on your freedom. The lesson for the audience is clear: your peace is non-negotiable, your growth is unstoppable. And while they wrestle with what they lost, you move forward, whole, resilient and unshaken. Because detachment is not absence, it is mastery, and the hidden regret of the avoidant becomes a silent testament to your strength, a reminder that your emotional depth was always yours to honor, not theirs to appreciate. So after everything, what does an avoidant really feel after rejecting you? Here's the truth: their calm, detached exterior is often just a mask. Behind it lies a mix of fleeting relief, quiet unease and secret reflection. They may act like they've moved on, but internally the emotional impact lingers far longer than you'd imagine. First, they feel relief, a temporary escape from emotional intensity. Your love, your presence, the closeness they feared, all suddenly vanish, and for a brief moment it feels lighter. But that relief is short-lived. The silence that follows doesn't bring peace, it brings reflection. They start noticing the gaps you left, the small reminders that linger in their daily life. A song, a phrase, a memory, all echoing the connection they walked away from. This is where secret longing emerges. Avoidants rarely express it openly, but it exists. They may feel a subtle ache, regret that they can't put into words, and a quiet curiosity about your life. They process what they avoided in ways that are invisible to you, and the reality is, while they wrestle with these unspoken feelings, you have the chance to reclaim your own life, your own energy, and your own peace. Here's the lesson for you: don't wait for acknowledgement or closure from them. You don't need it. Peace comes from within, not from someone who was never fully present. Set your boundaries, honor your growth, focus on your own clarity and happiness. Let their reflection, their longing, their regret, remain theirs. Your role isn't to fix, to chase, or to validate their emotions. Detach not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Release not because they were wrong or right, but because your emotional freedom matters more than any unreciprocated attachment. Remember, your calm, your boundaries, your self-respect, these are the real victories. So here's my advice for you: stop seeking closure externally, build it internally. When you do, you'll notice a profound shift. Their silence no longer haunts you, their regret no longer unsettles you. You become the person who moves forward with clarity, strength and peace, fully free from the cycle they trapped you in. Your freedom starts the moment you choose it. Make that choice today.